Hey everyone, I wanted to go over some new information and treat this as a little bit of a speculation discussion video when it comes to Monster Hunter Rise's new event quests. If you remember, just a couple of weeks ago we got the brand new Tokyo Game Show presentation when they basically showed off a whole bunch of new information regarding Monster Hunter Rise, the PC release, Sunbreak, stuff for Monster Hunter Stories 2, and the whole works. With that said, they did confirm that they will be putting out more event quests on a weekly basis for Monster Hunter Rise. And in that regard, they've been pretty much delivering. We're getting one brand new event quest every single week, and in October that's set to continue as well. No big surprise there. With that said, during the very specific presentation, we got a quick look at this image and a little bit of a short clip showcasing there's an Ibushi fight essentially that's coming up as an event quest into Monster Hunter Rise, and that took basically people by surprise because they weren't necessarily expecting a brand new Ibushi fight in general. And this is where I'm going to start treating this as more like speculation and not anything confirmed. I don't have any insider knowledge. I don't know anything for sure. So we're just going to treat this as something that could potentially happen, but we don't necessarily know. And thanks to Kira Nico, we have some pretty decent idea as to what could possibly that image have been about. And that's the fact that they've listed 2 event quests that are set to release potentially or potentially not in the very near future, that are set to include Thunder Serpent Narwa and Wind Serpent Ibushi. But again, this is all speculation. The reason why all of this is interesting is because so far we haven't necessarily seen any sort of event quest showcase any of these 2 monsters, and the best we've gotten is pretty much the most recent batch of Apex Monsters event quest. So it seems to be like, at the very least, the difficulty for event quests is being ratcheted up ever so slightly, to the point that we're now potentially could start to see pretty much endgame bosses, endgame monsters into the game as part of event quests. The first one that we're looking at is supposed to be an A-star quest called Clouds of the Narwa Rumble again. But again, translations wise this could be a little misleading, but we'll just go with this name for now, because it's all subject to change. I think the most interesting thing out of all of this is the fact that this Thunder Serpent Narwa could potentially have up to 40,000+ HP, which is a whole heck of a lot. That means it's going to be a pretty long fight if you're not necessarily prepared with end game level gear. On the other side of the coin, we also have another quest. Now, whether this actually means that this one will come after or this one will come first, who's to say? We don't necessarily know. Again, this is all just speculation for now. But according to Kira Nico, they're saying that they're spending an 8-star quest called Gales of the Ibushi Blow Again. So this one is pretty much going to be you taking down a Wind Serpent Ibushi. I think what's more interesting about this one specifically is the fact that, of course, not only does he have like 42,000 HP as listed, but also that you're going to be taking them down potentially in the Coral Palace. Now, so far, all of that's well and good, and apparently there do seem to be some damage modifiers as well for each one of these fights. So perhaps they're going to be doing a little bit of more damage on top of the fact that they have a whole heck of a lot more HP. That may be potentially true as well. Again, we don't necessarily know for sure. I think the most interesting aspect out of all of this is the fact that the Thunder Serpent Narwa fight could potentially go ahead and drop guild tickets. Meanwhile, the Ibushi fight could actually go ahead and drop camera tickets as well. So it's one of those things that these are specifically tailored for people who have not necessarily farmed in-game current stuff, or pretty much have actually put in the time and effort to go ahead and get some of those a little bit rarer items. And now they're going to have potentially the opportunity to go ahead and farm some of these event quests, or potentially just normal quests, and get some of these really cool rewards, which again are pretty interesting to see. Remember that guild tickets, I believe, are used for rampage upgrading weapons. So if you are like one of those weapon users who wants to upgrade their camera and rampage weapons, you can definitely are going to need a lot of guild tickets. I believe that's how that goes. Meanwhile, the camera tickets are used for those like really weird, like off the cuff kind of weapons, like the cutesy ones, the weird ones, and also some armor sets as well, like the Chandler, the sushi armors, the cat paws, the grim feline cat, the Kelby slingshots and stuff like that. So you're definitely going to be needing some of those camera tickets, which I do believe are probably the rarer ones to get. So definitely having some of these event quests potentially rewarding you with, at the very best, a guaranteed drop in one of those would potentially be very beneficial if you still haven't necessarily completed your collection in that regard. So I'm going to reiterate this once again because I just want to be very specific. This is all speculation. There's no confirmation as of right now. This is all speculative, and Kira Nico's putting out some information, but again, they could be wrong in that regard, so we don't necessarily have any confirmation as of right now. And I think the more interesting part out of all of this is the fact that pretty much I think they're realizing at Capcom at the very least, if this turns out to be true, that there is a desperate dire need for tougher and a little bit more difficult content into Monster Hunter Rise as we head into Sunbreak, which again is still like 9 to 10 months away, perhaps even up to a year away. Remember that they just revealed it in September and it's set to release next summer, so next summer could also be September of 2022. So keep in mind that we could be here a long while. That's actually one of the things that I've talked about very openly, the fact that, you know, I feel like they revealed that game, or at the very least that expansion, way too early, and it's going to be one of those really long roadmaps for them to pretty much get to that release. If they were saying spring of 2022, pretty much that would put it perhaps around the timeline of, you know, releasing maybe in March or April. That would somewhat line it up with the yearly release kind of a thing, the yearly calendar kind of thing before their fiscal end of the year. So it's one of those things that I do think that because they're saying summer, they're not necessarily trying to rush it out. And we're just going to be here a while with Monster Hunter Rise. The third-party collaborations, I don't think they're necessarily going to really move the threshold, move the meter in the same way that the Capcom collaborations did much. I recently went over their sales figures, and pretty much sales throughout the entire summer kind of plummeted. So it's just one of those things that right now we're just not necessarily, a lot of people are too excited as to what the content of the game actually is, but the prospect of what's actually set to come with the PC release and Sunbreak is very high. So maybe they're just starting to realize now that maybe they should start putting out some of these tougher event quests. Whether they could actually have enough of these to sustain it up until next summer, that's a different conversation. Maybe that's a video in and of itself. We can talk about that separately. But at the end of the day, it seems to, at the very least, that Capcom is realizing that they need to do a little bit more. So if putting out some of these rarer items in an event quest type of format is the way to go, then so be it. Whether that actually means we're going to be getting these Ibushi and Narwa fights standalone at the Coral Palace, I think that's a decent start. I think the couple of Apex quests that we've gotten recently have been pretty good. The fact that they had no actual rewards is a different conversation. It's a sad one at that. They should always be giving us something, some sort of incentive. I don't necessarily care for crown chasing in the same way that other people don't necessarily care about guild titles, and that's all fair, in the same way that other people don't necessarily care about gestures or like stickers. You know, it's just one of those things that a lot of people have different things that they care about. And at the same time, I've also talked about the fact that they've kind of just ignored the Rampage altogether, and hopefully going forward they can go ahead and bring some tougher real challenges to the Rampage. I think adding another difficulty level in that, just another start difficulty, would just go a long way, because it just feels kind of like a cakewalk and pretty much just a waste of 15 minutes. But that's all the information that I have for you guys today. Again, speculative information at that, and we're just going to leave it at that. Hopefully Kira Nico provides us with more details heading into the future, and hopefully we start to see some of these higher difficulty event quests show up in the game. But if you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.